Hello beautiful people, and welcome to an episode in which we're gonna have a closer look at this new Navy hero, aka the Lady of the Seas, Shen Suyu. I'm gonna explain you exactly where does this hero fit in Top War. In other words, answering a super important question: do you actually need this hero, yes or no? And for that, first let's start at the rock bottom, meaning in other words, the Navy is exactly like the planes and exactly like the tanks. You literally have two different setups, best setups or metas, however you want to call it, one being slightly better than the other. One of these setups is actually this one with Lilia, Ada and Meowzilla being actually slightly better or best for the Navy, but the second setup is like this, Jester with Lilia and Zen. When we have a look at the best setup for the Navy, like this one, it's all about the heavy armor and light armor's shields in order to boost Meowzilla to do a lot of damage. Sure, when it comes down to the runes, you can use damage increase, damage decrease, but you can also use this vulnerability or debilitation effects. They will help and they are very solid effects, but fact is, using debilitation and vulnerability, or in general the abnormal effects on this setup, not only gonna give you that, we're also gonna give you on top a bigger advantage for Zen because he benefits from that. In other words, yes, pretty much the Lady of the Seas has to be compared with Zen, and by the end of this episode I'm gonna tell you which one is better. Meaning in other words, let's put Mr. Zen on the screen for a simple reason, because I want to show you something else also. And we want to have a look at the abnormal status. What exactly is this effect? That's vulnerability, that's debilitation, chaos, ignition, stun, disarm, silence, magnetic pulse. And before we compare these two heroes, there's one more thing which is important and has to be added, and we're gonna have a look at the gear, because if you are having the pulse jammer, definitely is the best to be used on the Navy, because this is a disarm effect, aka an abnormal effect. Good, now let's compare these two heroes to understand a little bit better the difference between these two heroes. So I'm gonna click this button over here in order to put the hero in default, and both heroes are exclusively only for the Navy. Meaning in other words, using Encyclopedia units on slot 7 and 9, well, definitely gonna have an effect, because both heroes can only activate their skill and hit if the unit is Navy. So both are considered to be support heroes. In this case, the Lady of the Sea gives you a 66% HP boost, while Sen gives you a 65 HP boost. Good, let's go now to the active skill. And here we see that the hero, when he procs or activates his skill, it can hit up 3 targets, doing 130% damage to each hit, which is basically the same like Zen. But the difference will slowly gonna show up now. Because if the slot of your opponent has an abnormal status, these heroes will gonna do more damage. But in case of Shen Suyu, for each type of abnormal status, it's increasing the damage by 10% and it goes up to 30%. What exactly does this mean? You're gonna need 3 different types of abnormal effects. So you're already probably gonna have vulnerability and debilitation, and you need another one in order to reach the maximum damage possible. While when we have a look at Zen, well, it's just gonna give you a 10% damage increase, that's it. While if we have a look at the level 5 exclusive skill, you actually see it gives you another 20% extra damage if the target has an abnormal status. Meaning in other words, already from this perspective right now, Shen Suyu, it's far more free to play friendlier, as without the exclusive skill, or you already have a better hero. Good, let's go to the passive skill. And again, a difference is here to be seen, because both heroes' passive skill have a chance to apply a 15% vulnerable effect. But the Lady of the Seas actually goes one step further, because if the hero active skill hits a unit with the abnormal status, all units gain a damage increase and a damage decrease of 5%, but it goes all the way up to 25%. Which we definitely do not see on Zen side. So again, the difference becomes bigger and bigger. Good, now let's move to the exclusive skill of both heroes. But you already have seen that even without the exclusive skill, the Lady of the Seas is actually better than Zen, which is somewhat acceptable taking into consideration that Zen is pretty old by now. Good, the level 3 exclusive skill is the same for both heroes. So when we have a look at the level 5 exclusive skill, the difference between Zen and the Lady of the Seas actually becomes bigger, because the first part of the level 5 exclusive skill of Zen is literally what Shen has by default, and also going to give you 3 extra vulnerable. But when we have a look at Shen Suyu, we're going to apply the vulnerability on 3 slots, but this also going to be increased by 20%. Meaning, in other words, that's exactly what the vulnerability is. Those slots having vulnerability, you're going to do more damage on those. But it doesn't stop here. Again, you have to pay attention, because for each different abnormal status effect on that slot, the damage of Shen Suyu is going to be between 15 and 45%. Meaning, in other words, yes, the goal would be to have 3 different abnormal effects on as many slots as possible of your opponent. That's why you also actually saw Jester there as an offense buffy hero applying that silence. Sure, she doesn't apply that on all the slots, but it's still gonna help. And when we have a look at the level 7, yeah, both hero will gonna have 5 attacks instead of 3. And again, the same story for each abnormal effect on that slot. The damage is gonna be between 25 and 75% maximum value. Again, the goal would be to have 3 different abnormal effects on that slot in order to get the maximum damage out of this hero. While on the other side, Zen will just gonna give you another 20% extra damage if the target has an abnormal status. So do we have a conclusion on Shen Suyu, the Lady of the Seas, versus Zen? And the answer is yes, we do indeed have one. And by simply reaching this point in this video, you already must have understood correctly that Shen Su, it gives you far more for far less. In other words, yes, indeed, she is better than Zen. But the conclusion, dear beautiful people, actually goes far, far, far beyond the comparison between her and Zen, as that's exactly what we have to do with battle tests and see the impact of Shen Su implemented in TOPWAR when it comes down to these 2 marches. As of right now, this setup is the best for the Navy with Meowzilla, this heavy armor, light armor kind of setup, which we're gonna have to test versus this setup. Obviously, instead of Zen, you're gonna use Shen Su, because from my perspective, this setup with Jester, Lila, for example, and Shen Su has a very strong potential to actually beat the setup with Meowzilla. But I would like to go one step further than this and say, for me personally, I think that the collaboration heroes are slowly losing their values. And when I say collaboration heroes, obviously the old ones, but also the new ones, because the main problem with the collaboration heroes, they are only available when that specific collaboration is active, Volume 1 and Volume 2, and nowadays also in between them. But after that, you no longer have the option to actually unlock the hero, just in case you missed it, or for example, to buy a couple of that hero's level 1 exclusive skill. And during this collaboration, you also have this certain pressure on you. You have X day to get a couple of level 1 exclusive skills, and you don't have that when it comes down to these heroes of the month like Shen Su. And I've said this in a video before the Resident Evil collaboration event came, so there are a few exceptions here and there. One of them being indeed Ada, because it's a hero with indestructible buff, which we don't have that many in game. But I will gonna stick with this theory that the collaboration heroes in general, also the future ones, lost their value, because I'm not entirely convinced that River Game knows exactly what heroes are needed in TOPWAR, because we would have seen by now Scaramanga 2.0, Amalia 2.0, Kuruzo 2.0, Diana 2.0, Lanchester for tanks and navy. Because not just only the players would benefit to have such heroes implemented in TOPWAR, indirectly also the developing company would actually gonna do a higher revenue implementing such heroes. But then again, River Game, don't let me stop you if you are stubborn and think that this path is still the best one for the game. Good. I hope you guys love this episode. I know we haven't seen us in a while, but it's still worth it to support what supports you back. The best way to do so is actually 100% free, meaning in other words, subscribe to this channel, watch these videos till the end, share this channel with your friends. Thank you very much for watching, and I will gonna catch you in the next awesome episode. Ciao, 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 people.